Yeah,
Yes.
I didn't see it.
Which movie?
Morning, Rabbi. Can't hear you.
Where is he?
He's there.
Where
Good
is he?
morning.
Morning.
Hey,
Lady.
Rabbi.
Bye.
How are you guys?
Where's-
Good morning.
where's
Good morning.
Lady? Okay. Oh. What did he come in as? Lady, where is he?
I'm not Izzy. You can make me a co-host. I gave you when I signed in. It made me host. I sent it back.
I
to
know.
you.
I just changed it.
Okay, good.
I just changed it.
Thank you.
Okay, seems like we're getting the crowd coming in. And what am I going to do? I'm going to do this now. Choose a virtual background. Video. No, not that there. Okay. So we'll get going. How's everybody new there? Hi, Rosalind. Hi, Rhoda. Sheldon.
Hi, Izzy.
Everyone. Marty.
Hi, back. Oh, hello to you too.
Hi.
Hello, everybody.
Let's see here, chat. We're in. We're going to start in a couple minutes.
4 minutes.
4 minutes. Just giving people a few more minutes to come in. You got them there?
Izzy, I have a
It's
question
11
for
o'clock.
the rabbi, if you can get him to unmute.
Sure. What's up?
Oh, hey, Rabbi. Do you know my rabbi at Chabad in town, Rabbi Ari Solish and Rabbi Eliyahu Schusterman?
So their names precede them. Rabbi Schusterman, his younger brother is my best friend. So I know, I don't know him well. I know his brother.
What is
Rabbi
his brother's name?
Solish. And Rabbi Solish is like he's got some lectures out there. So I've heard his name. Yeah. Chabad in town, right?
Yes. What is Schusterman's brother's name? The one you're so good friends with?
Well, his nickname is Cushy, like Kushi. He lives in Bel Air, Maryland.
So, Adele, you've got to understand that if you ask the rabbi if he knows another rabbi in Chabad, the answer is always going to be yes.
Almost always. Almost always.
Always, never mind almost, always going to be yes.
What a foolish
I
question.
haven't heard him say no yet.
Well, how many Chabads are there in the world?
Over 5,000. So
Oh, and each one has a rabbi.
I don't know all 5,000.
Oh, come on.
Let's know all of them. Hi, Rosalind.
Hi, Pinky.
Nice to see you, sweetie.
Okay, so what have we got? 2
2
minutes?
minutes to countdown.
Okay, they're still coming in. This is a good luck.
I don't see anybody.
Okay, so I'll just chat quickly about the Phoenix Jewish Film Festival, which started. If any of you have had hassles downloading the app and trying to log on, you're not alone. It's a hassle. I don't know what they did, but it's a hassle.
You can't watch it on my TV.
Well, I'll help you later
Okay,
and show you how to download the app.
okay.
But it's not, they're having problems. In fact, this afternoon I have a call with Tricia, who's in charge of it. Well, I'm going to bring up a couple of issues. The first movie on Saturday night was really, really good, called Shared Legacies. I'm trying to get her to put it on again in case you missed it, and to see what's going on. Okay.
Izzy,
Yeah.
we've been doing the app through Roku,
Yeah.
and it's the first time we had a little problem, but now it's really smooth.
Very.
Good.
So we haven't, initially we had a little problem, but now it's really slick.
I don't want, yeah.
Did you
I
see
don't
the
want you to feel,
minutes
I don't want
to?
you to feel bad about Roku. I also use Roku, and initially I had a lot of trouble downloading the app because they told you to look for Greater Phoenix,
Yes.
and it's not. On Roku, it's the Phoenix Jewish Film Festival or some other name. So that was the issue with Roku. But once you've got the app, it's easy.
What about Apple TV?
Apple TV, the key is it works exactly like downloading an app on your phone or your thing. But I'll get with you afterwards, Elaine, and I'll help you.
Thank you.
14, 13, 10, 9, nearly time for liftoff.
Okay. Hi, everybody, and welcome to our 7th session of the movie group. Have all of you gotten my little gift that I sent?
Yes,
Yes.
I'm glad
Yes.
you did it.
If you don't have it, just go to your bathroom and get the Kleenex now. When Pinky and I saw this, let me go back, maybe 2 years ago on YouTube, there was that short of Nicholas Winton in the BBC studios. I saw it, and it was really nice. When I saw this movie come up, and and we watched it, we actually said, "This is it. We have to show this movie for the group," and that's how the movie started. It's not easy to find information about. Let me move this out of the way. Okay, not easy to find information about the movie, but I did the research, and this is what I've come up with. Nicholas Winton and the Rescue of the Children from Czechoslovakia, 1938 to 1939. Nicholas Winton organized a rescue operation that brought 669 children, mostly Jewish, from Czechoslovakia to safety in Great Britain before the outbreak of World War II. The story only came to light in the 1980s because his wife unearthed the old scrapbook while she was cleaning out their loft. Family memories are hazy, but it seems that they talked about his role in the evacuation and did not know about the scrapbook, though the reason why Greta took it upon herself to show it to Mrs. Maxwell of the BBC has been lost. I asked him whether he was pleased. She did. "I'm only pleased if it has some advantage to someone," he says. Just to propagate the past is absolute nonsense. There was a famous Frenchman who says, "There's only one thing we've ever learned from the past, is that what we never learned anything from the past." It was actually Hegel, but it was a good line. It's all being done again, but rather worse. We've learned how to do bad things better.
This old man saved my life and that of hundreds of others in the Second World War.
I have a motto that if something isn't blatantly impossible, there must be a way of doing it.
Come on, man.
I saw those people who were in difficulty, in danger, people on Hitler's blacklist.
It all happened so suddenly. My mother took us 4 children. We just ran for our lives.
We tried to get to America. We tried to get to England. We tried to get to Palestine. But all the governments said our borders are now closed.
And there was no way out.
We had organized 8 transports from Prague. There were thousands of children on the lists who wanted to get out.
Then the day came that we had to leave. We went to the train. Everybody was there already, my grandparents and all our friends.
The last thing my dad said to me was I should be his brave, cheerful little girl. And I think I have been.
Our greatest regret was that our biggest transport, which was 250 children, was cancelled because war started. And almost none of those children survived.
My family, none of these people survived.
Nicholas Winton has influenced so many people all over the world to help someone who is very ill or in danger.
I never thought what I did 70 years ago was going to have such a big impact as apparently it has. And if it has now got a story which helps people to live for the future, well, that will be an added bonus.
Nicholas Winton was born Nicholas Wertheimer on May the 19th, 1909 in West Hampstead, England. Winton is a bit deaf, tires easily, and his memory is not what it was. Interviewing him is tricky, but meeting him is thrilling. A touching hem of history moment. His life encapsulates the 20th century. He was born in London in 1909 into a family of German Jewish origin and baptized as a member of the Anglican Church by decision of his parents. Please remember this. Highly cultured and well-connected, he was educated at Stowe Public School in the 1920s and became a stockbroker. But he was a stockbroker of an unusual stripe because he was an ardent socialist who became close to the Labour Party luminaries such as Aneurin Bevan, Jenny Lee, and Tom Dryburgh. In December 1938, Martin Blake, a friend and an instructional master at the Westminster School in London, asked Winton to forego his planned ski vacation and visit him in Czechoslovakia, where he had traveled in his capacity as an associate of the British Committee for Refugees from Czechoslovakia. I have a most interesting assignment and I need your help. Don't bother bringing your skis. When Winton arrived, he was asked to help in the camps, in which thousands of refugees were living in appalling conditions. This committee had been established in October 1938 to provide assistance for refugees created by the German annexation of Sudeten regions under the terms of the Munich Pact. The Munich Conference was held September the 29th and 30th, 1938, following Hitler's demand to annex Sudetenland, a region in Czechoslovakia populated largely by ethnic Germans. The resulting crisis led Britain and France, who had adopted a policy of appeasement, to pressure Czechoslovakia to accede to Hitler's demands. No Czech representative was present at the conference, and the agreement led to the destruction of the Czech state. Following the conference, Winston Churchill warned, "Do not suppose that this is the end. This is only the beginning of the reckoning." Convinced that a European war was imminent, Winton decided to go. In Prague, Blake introduced Winton to his colleagues, Doreen Warrener, and arranged for him to visit the refugee camps filled to capacity with Jews and political opponents from the student land. An office was opened in the Europa Hotel in Prague. These pictures over here are the plaque in the hotel. This is the restaurant where they held their meetings in the Hotel Europa. After Munich, Winton had been certain that the Germans would occupy the rest of Bohemia and Moravia before long. He had been alarmed further by the violence against the Jewish community in Germany and Austria during the riots of November 1938. When he heard of subsequent efforts of Jewish agencies in Britain to rescue German and Austrian children on the so-called Kindertransport, an effort that eventually brought about 10,000 unaccompanied children to safety in Great Britain, Winton summoned a small group of people to organize a similar rescue for the children of imperiled by the impending German dismemberment of Czechoslovakia in March of 1939. Winton immediately established a children's section, and using the name of the British Committee for Refugees from Czechoslovakia, initially without authorization, began taking applications from parents at his hotel in Prague. As his operation expanded, he opened an office in central Prague. Soon, thousands of children lined up outside of Winston Children's Section office, seeking a safe haven for their children. Winton returned to London to organize the rescue operation on that end. He raised money to fund the transports of the children and the £50 per child guarantee, which is approximately $9,000 by today's currency conversion, demanded by the British government to fund the children's eventual departure from Britain. The situation was heartbreaking. Many of the refugees hadn't had the price of a meal. Some of the mothers tried desperately to get money to buy food for themselves and their children. In terms of his mission, Winton was not thinking in small numbers, but in thousands of children. He was ready to start a mass evacuation. Everybody in Prague said, "Look, there is no organization in Prague to deal with the refugee children. Nobody will let the children go on their own. But if you want to have a go, have a go." And I think there is nothing that can't be done if it is fundamentally reasonable. He also had to find British families willing to take care of the refugee children. By day, Winton worked at his regular job in the stock exchange and then devoted the late afternoons and evenings to his rescue efforts. He made a great effort to raise money and find foster homes to bring as many children as possible to safety. This picture of Nicholas Winton in the middle with the child is one of the most famous and publicized pictures of him. Operation Kindertransport. On December the 2nd, 1938, Jewish and Christian agencies began rescuing German and Austrian children, German and Austrian Jewish children on Kindertransport, the children's transport. The Refugee Children's Movement, a group under the auspices of the Central British Fund for German Jewry, or the CBF, which later became known as the World Jewish Relief Organization, urged concerned Christians and Jews to support Operation Kindertransport. An extensive fundraising effort was organized, and the British public responded generously, raising £500,000 British pounds in 6 months. A large portion of this money was used to care for the children who were rescued. Between December 1938 and May 1940, almost 10,000 children, infants to teenagers, were rescued and given shelter at farms, hostels, camps, and in private homes in Britain. However, this effort did not include the children of Czechoslovakia, and this is why the work of Nicholas Winton was so vital. Officials at the Home Office worked very slowly with entry visas. Winton went to them urgently asking for permits, only to be told, "Why rush, old boy? Nothing will happen in Europe." This was a few months before the war broke out. So we forged the Home Office permits. The first transport of children organized by Winton left Prague by plane for London on March 14th, 1939, the day before the Germans occupied the Czech lands. After the Germans established a protectorate in the Czech provinces of Bohemia and Moravia, Winton organized 7 further transports that departed by rail out of Prague and across Germany to the Atlantic coast, and then by ship across the English Channel to Britain. At the train station in London, British foster parents waited to collect the children. The last trainload of children left Prague on August the 2nd, 1939, a mere 141 days after it began. Rescue activity ceased when Germany invaded Poland and Britain declared war on Germany in early September 1939. The last trainload of children left on August the 2nd, bringing the total number of rescued children to 669. It is impossible to imagine the emotions of parents sending their children to safety, knowing they may never be reunited, and impossible to imagine the fears of the children leaving the lives they knew and their loved ones for the unknown. The total number of children rescued through Winton's efforts is not yet certain. According to the scrapbook he kept, 664 children came to Great Britain on the transports he organized. In the research compiled for the documentary, The Power of Good, aired on Czech TV in 2002, Czech researchers identified 5 additional children who were sent to Sweden, but entered Britain later on, thus making the official numbers 669. The available information indicates that some children who were rescued have not yet been identified. On September the 1st, 1939, the biggest transport of children was to take place. But on that day, Hitler invaded Poland and all the borders controlled by Germany were closed. This put an end to Winton's rescue efforts. Winton has said many times that the vision that haunts him most to this day is the picture of hundreds of children waiting eagerly at Wilson Station in Prague for that last aborted transport. Within hours of the announcement, the train disappeared. None of the 250 children on board was seen again. We had 250 families waiting at Liverpool Station that day in vain. If the train had been a day earlier, it would have come through. Not a single one of those children was heard of again, which was an awful feeling. The significance of Winton's mission is verified by the fate of that last trainload of children. Moreover, most of the parents and siblings of the children Winton saved perished in the Holocaust. After the war, Nicholas Winton didn't tell anyone, not even his wife Greta, about his wartime rescue efforts. In 1988, a half century later, Greta found a scrapbook from 1939 in their attic with all the children's names and photos and a few letters from parents of the children to Winton and other documents. She finally learned the whole story. Today, the scrapbooks and other papers are held at Yad Vashem. The Holocaust Martyrs and Heroes Remembers Authority in Israel. Greta shared the story with Dr. Elizabeth Maxwell, a Holocaust historian and the wife of newspaper magnate Robert Maxwell. Robert Maxwell arranged for his newspaper to publish the articles on Winton's amazing deeds. Winton's extraordinary story led to his appearance on Esther Ranson's BBC television program, That's Life. In the studios, emotions ran high as Winton's children introduced themselves and expressed gratitude to him for saving their lives. Because the program was aired nationwide, many of the rescued children also wrote to him and thanked him. Letters came from all over the world, and new faces still appear at his door, introducing themselves by name that matched the documents from 1939. The rescued children, many now grandparents, still refer to themselves as Winton's children. Amongst those saved are the British film director Carl Reitz for the French Lieutenant's Woman, Isadora and Sweet Dreams, Canadian journalist and news correspondent for the CBC, Joe Schlesinger, originally from Slovakia, Lord Alfred Dubs, a former minister in the Blair cabinet, Lady Melania Grenfell Baines, a patron of the arts whose father, Rudolf Fleischmann, saved Thomas Mann from the Nazis, Dagmar Samova, a cousin of the former US Secretary of State, Madeleine Albright, Tom Schrecker, a Reader's Digest manager, Hugo Meron, a famous aviation consultant and one of the founders of the Israeli Air Force, and Vera Gissing, author of Pearls of Childhood and co-author of Nicholas Winton and the Rescued Generation. Winton has received many acknowledgements for his humanitarian pre-war deeds. He received a letter of thanks from the late Ezra Weitzman, the former president of the State of Israel. He was made an honorary citizen of Prague in 1993. Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II awarded him an MBE, the member of the British Empire, on October the 28th, 1998. Václav Havel, the President of Czech Republic, awarded him the Order of T.G. Masaryk at the Hrdany Castle for his heroic achievement. On December the 31st, 2002, Winton received a knighthood from Queen Elizabeth for his services to humanity. Winton's story is also the subject of 2 films by Czech filmmaker Matek Minak, All My Loved Ones and the award-winning Power of Good. Winton received the American Congressional Resolution. Over the course of many interviews, Winton was asked why he did it. His answers were always framed by his typical humble manner. One saw the problem and that a lot of these children were in danger, and you had to get them to what was called a safe haven. And there was no organization to do that. He told the New York Times in 2001. Why did I do it? Why do people do different things? Some people revel in taking risks, and some go through life taking no risks at all. Partly, he says, because it was of his family connections. My family knew what was going on in Germany. We had people who were being persecuted staying with us. We had refugees staying with us. We were being fed the whole time with what was going on, which was much more than the politicians were telling us. But it was also because of his socialism. Through Blake, he had become part of the left-wing circle and was opposed to appeasement. And by 1938, he understood the danger the Czech Jews were faced. Refugee groups were seeking to get endangered adults out, but no one was helping the children. And he took it on himself to plug the gap. So Nicholas Winton passed away in 2015 at the age of 106. He died on the anniversary of the departure of the train in 1909, carrying the largest of children, 241. He always wore a ring given to him by some of the children he saved. And it was inscribed with a line from the Talmud, which reads, one life, save one life and save the world. For those of you who have been to Prague and have been to the Dahony synagogue there, this monument in the middle of the screen, this colored one, is at the synagogue over there. I don't know if you're aware also that Google makes doodles when there's an occasion. And this was a Google from Doodle.
How can I help Missy?
No, you can't. From Google.
Bye for now. Hope you and your loved ones are safe and healthy.
Nicholas Winton's family numbers over 7,000 today. What can we learn from Sir Nicholas Winton? His Barbara daughter said, he never had any great ambition and lacked confidence. What he did have was anger at injustice and single-mindedness once he set out to right a wrong. Nicholas Winton came to see religion as organized hypocrisy. I know crowds of people who go to church and to synagogue who aren't religious. What is needed is something in which they can all believe, irrespective of religion, which in most cases, I dare say, is a facade. We need something else, and that something else is ethics, goodness, kindness, love, and honesty. If people behaved ethically, no problem. He has bent the ear of his local MP, Theresa May, about this, and says whatever she sees in him, she immediately says ethics. He was pessimistic about the future, anxious about nuclear weapons and our spiraling capacity for destruction. He also doubts that the probing eye of round-the-clock TV news will ensure that the mass delusion and passivity of democracies in the 1930s never reoccurs. It needs to be more than that. It needs to be a complete reconception of life. Too late for me. Know then thyself, presume not God to scan. The proper study of mankind is man. Whether that works, I don't know. It hasn't worked for me. I'd like to take a moment to talk about the righteous amongst nations. When Yad Vashem and the Shoah Martyrs and the Heroes Remembrance Authority was established in 1953 by the Knesset, one of the tasks was to commemorate the righteous amongst nations. The righteous were defined as non-Jews who risked their lives to save Jews during the Holocaust. Since 1963, a commission headed by the Justice of the Supreme Court of Israel has been charged with the duty of awarding the honorary title Righteous Amongst Nations. Guided in its work by certain criteria, the Commission meticulously studies all documentation, including evidence by survivors and other eyewitnesses, evaluates the historical circumstances and the element of risk to the rescuer, and then decides if the case merits criteria. The criteria are: only a Jewish party can put forward a nomination. Helping a family member or helping a Jew who converted to Christianity is not ground for recognition. Assistance has to be repeated or substantial. Assistance has to be given without any financial gain in return, although covering expenses such as food is acceptable. The award has been given without regard to social rank of the helper. It has been given to royalty, such as Princess Alice of Battenberg, Queen Mother Helen of Romania, and Queen Elizabeth of Belgium, but also to others like philosopher Jacques Ellul and to the Amsterdam department store employee Henrika Gerritsen, Irene Sendler, a Polish Roman Catholic nurse who saved 2,500 lives, and the most famous being Oskar Schindler. Then Raoul Wallenberg, from the US, Master Sergeant Roderick Edmonds. A person who is recognized as righteous for having taken risks to help Jews during the Holocaust is awarded a medal in their name, a certificate of honor, and the privilege of having the name added to the wall of honor in the Garden of the Righteous at Yad Vashem. The last in lieu of a tree planting, which has been discontinued due to lack of space. The awards are distributed to the rescuers or their next of kin during ceremonies held in Israel or in their countries of residence through the office of Israel's diplomatic representatives. These ceremonies are attended by local government representatives are given wide media coverage. The Yad Vashem law authorizes Yad Vashem to confer honorary citizenship on the righteous among nations, and if they have died, to commemorative citizenship of the state of Israel in recognition of their actions. Anyone who's been recognized as righteous is entitled to apply to Yad Vashem for the certificate. If the person is no longer alive, the next of kin are entitled to the certificate. In total, as of January the 1st, 2020, 27,712 men and women from 51 countries have been recognized, amounting to more than 10,000 authenticated rescue stories. Yad Vashem's policy is to pursue the program for as long as petitions for this title are received and are supported by evidence that meets the criteria. Recipients who choose to live in the state of Israel are entitled to a pension equal to the average national wage and free health care, as well as assistance with housing and nursing care. Why am I mentioning this? Sir Nicholas Winton is not honored at the Righteous Among Nations. Sir Nicholas Winton was born Jewish, and his parents chose to baptize him at an early age. He therefore remains Jewish. Jews are not honored at the Righteous Amongst Nations, at Yad Vashem. There is another memorial for Sir Nicholas in Israel. However, I must admit, I could not locate it. And that ends the presentation. Mark this date in your calendar, March the 16th, 2021, for our next session. And the movies I'm going to recommend, because of the film festival, I'm only going to recommend 2 movies. This one on Netflix called The Boy Who Harnessed the Wind is a great, great movie. And the one we're going to highlight for next month is called The Lone Samaritan. Very, very interesting sect of people for the next review. And I will be having a special guest. So you can now unmute your mics if you want, and I'm opening up the floor for discussion.
Easy. I'd like to add something about the Kinder Transport Program. There is a memorial at the entrance to Liverpool Station in London, which contains 5 bronze statues of children, representative statues. And the Kinder Transport Program was more than Nicholas Winton. They rescued roughly 10,000 Jewish children in a 9-month period. So, but it's quite moving to see.
Right.
I think from Germany, not from Czechoslovakia. He's honored for his work in Czechoslovakia.
Yeah.
We have 2 residents in Woodstock. Stan and I know them, who are the Righteous Gentiles.
Well, they passed away.
Yeah, well, you want to tell the story?
Oh, yeah, this was a Dutch couple, and she passed away in '94. He was about 82 or 83, and they didn't save that many. I mean, because they had a farm and they hid people at their farm, but they saved 32 Jews during the war. And one of the women that they saved lived in the surrounding area, so they were together quite often here. And they have their pictures are up at the Holocaust Museum in Washington.
And when he died, he stipulated that everybody should receive sunflower seeds.
Because he planted sunflower seeds every year.
Yes, and they should spread the sunflower seeds and think of him.
And those of you who have visited Prague at the Wilson station, there's a statue and a plaque at the station in Prague. So it's really a story for the ages. This is a story I'd really love my grandchildren to watch. And I'd actually suggested to my kids that because of the COVID and the Zoom, that maybe we should pick a movie and discuss a movie. If I left them to pick a movie, it would be The Avengers or Superman or some Marvel comic hero. If we left to pick a movie, we'd pick a movie like this because it's a movie that can teach them something, you know, and show them something.
Izzy, you said that there were 7,000